Much respect, fam. We're back again with a part 2 of our wokeism versus consciousness discussion here on the Ministry of Spirituology new media content channel. This is a recording of the Minutes with the Minister. I am the Nka'laa of Bafut, the initiator of the Ministry of Spirituology, Nka'laa, the director of the Association for Cultural Awareness. And in this recording of audiovisual notes, essentially, I just want to jump in on this topic about wokeism versus consciousness. This is really a very important discussion that needs to be made at this current peak in time, after us realizing that we always have to keep in clear context as we teach in our ministry that what actually broke the world system was the doomed versas of 1452. And intellectuals are going to come and they'll be like, oh, there's this other papal bull and slavery was already practiced like this and like that. But this document is very instrumental and monumental because it states in it specifically, it was Pope Nicholas V, he decrees that Saracens, who actually were Muslims during the time, it designates that particular religious demographic, and then specifically it broadly categorizes heathens. You see it, and it gives authority in this document to essentially King Alphonse, the Portuguese. And yes, the Portuguese had already been exploring Africa before this document was actually released, and they'd already been engaged in kidnapping slaves before this document actually been released, as early as even 1441 with some documents that I read. But I say, that's what I want to talk about, my people. Let me just stop right there, because I'm going to make a long recording for nothing, and it's like wokeism versus being conscious. I don't want to be woke. Honestly, I don't want to be woke. I don't want to be woke. What does it mean to be woke? You see, a lot of individuals who are just woke, you see, they're coming into concepts which they feel have enlightened them. Like, there's a passage in the Bible, it's Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, where it says, let he who has wisdom calculate the number of the beast, for the number of a man, it's number 666. You see it, and the 666 now, the woke community, they're bringing forward this idea that 666 actually, yes, to go to the periodical chart elements, you see that 666 has to do with carbon. We're talking six protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. Yes, melanin is carbon based. Yes, that's true. That's scientifically correct. But in the context of that passage, the book that it's being drawn from, your symbolism and allegory does not pertain to what you read in that chapter, because the symbols that are in that chapter relate to particular beasts and animals. And the idea of 666 being the number of a man and it being a beast, in the context of that chapter, there's a reference to a beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns, and all of that symbolism. When you get back into the book of Daniel, chapter 7, I think, and chapters 5, and chapters 2, you start to see that there's animal symbolism being used, which reconnects now to the Revelation chapter 13 of the Bible, in which this concept of 666 actually is first brought up in all of its usage. There's a reality and a totality of holistic spiritual knowledge of natural science, which these symbolisms can be linked to. That in historical chronology, this beast of manifestation is the Holy Roman Empire, which therefore became represented by the little horn, which was the Holy Roman Catholic Church and the papacy. So I said, my people, this is not being woke. Are you conscious to what was done? Are you really conscious? And if you're conscious and you actually truly understand this, not understand it, because you understand it, then that weight is on you. It's crushing you. You can't even wake up. Even if you woke up, the weight of the knowledge won't let you get up. If you're conscious to this reality, then you're supposed to be wanting to organize. 100%. You pull yourself out of the Abrahamic traditions and religious systems. You look at them in that context of who wrote the Holy Quran and Bible. And if you are the person with that same ability, it makes you now responsible for the uncivilized. And that is the individual who is still in the triple state of darkness, being deaf, dumb, and blind. They are deaf that when you would be speaking this truth to them, they would not be able to hear it. They would be dumb that their minds are already dead. They can't understand the truth, and they're blind that even when the truth is made blatantly apparent in front of them, they cannot discern it or see it, even as they see the lies in the media. So we have to resurrect our people from a mental death. That's what the conscious community and movement was all about. That's what each one originally was for. It wasn't supposed to form a woke movement where people want to distort a foundation teachers. Like I said, that 666 identified the Roman Catholic Church. That's why I had to even mention that. Because when they say, let he who has wisdom calculate the number of the beast, for is the number of a man, his number is 666. The number of the man, 666, when it's done in the numerology, they bring out Nero in it in its context. And not just Nero, they also calculations that you bring out Vicarius Filidae, which is one of the titles of the Pope. And then, of course, religious apologetics, they're going to come and be like, oh, then you can calculate the numbers and get various names. But this is the truth. When you go into the direct symbolisms of the chapter, right, and you reason that back from Daniel's time to the time when this particular vision is being recorded as a prophecy in its presentation in this text, that the symbols from Daniel's time gave 4 empires which were actually supposed to follow after. And when you follow the historical chronology, you see that this synchronizes, and the Holy Roman Empire is that 4th symbolic beast. Now, if you take the parts of all of those beasts which are represented in the book of Daniel chapter 7, you see them now manifested in the form of the beast in the revelation of chapter 13. So, like I said, I'm not bringing anything. I'm not doing interpolation. I'm not bringing knowledge from outside of the text where this concept is first raised to interpret it. I'm interpreting it from the text. So when they start talking about, 666 is the black man, and it's like, okay, that's good. That makes sense. Do something with it. What you want to do with it? You're the beast now? What, you an animal? I mean, my people, disinformation has been the highest weapon that they've been using against the conscious community in the internet. You don't just receive a meme or just read one article without tracing out who wrote the article. Before that's why I say that's how they throw disinformation at us. When you don't know how to check up on what you're reading, then you will actually find yourself in this conflict where you have knowledge which you can't use. And that's what it means to be woke. You have knowledge which you can't actually apply. And a lot of y'all, you are woke and you just want to be woke. You just want to point, but that's a problem there. That's a problem there. That's a problem there. And now they made the cancel culture like that. They'll use social media now to flare up opinions. When you look at it in the context of someone who understands how media and communication is used to manipulate people, it's something that is really a conflict in our development. You see it, we allow concepts get thrown at us from odd sources without fact checking it and verifying its ultimate implication and value in our development. And then it impedes our development, you see it, because we use it now to divide ourselves. That's what they did with Black Women is God. That's what they did with original Black Aboriginals in America. I'm not trying to say that I think I know everything. I'm not saying that I'm super conscious cosmic. No. I'm saying that a lot of knowledge that is being thrown out and a lot of knowledge that's being represented to us is false knowledge. And we're not doing the math behind it to actually understand its primary, secondary sources and the authors of this knowledge to understand what its true source and intent is. We just pick up on it because it gives us a little pride and ego and derail ourselves from realizing that we were supposed to be acting in organization towards challenging these institutions that have put us in this situation and organizing our people towards raising back our nation, the African nation. That's the conflict that we're having between being woke and being conscious. You see it. Individuals who are conscious, they want to organize. You see it. They want to actually create actions that will stop things from occurring that force us to emotionally react and come out into the streets and protest after the fact that something has occurred, which should have been checked at a legislative level in policy to block it from occurring in the first place. You see it. Black Lives Matter. Honestly, that was a woke movement. That was essentially, people were mobilized without organization, because if it was actually properly organized, I'll be very honest, a lot of people get angry to hear it, but if you're going to lobby the government, you're not going to go to the U.S. government and say that they should make a law, pass a law in legislature in which black men should not be killed by law enforcement. You see it. That's why I say that if you understand the value of words when you're creating these lobbies, you see that what they did, it was just supposed to be used to get Trump out, but it wasn't actually seeking to solve the problem. And that's what I'm saying. The problem is that men are being killed, black men are being killed, but you need to get a law passed in legislation which makes it illegal for any unarmed civilian to be killed by law enforcement. That's what you should be seeking for. That's what you should be lobbying for. It should be in the media. You should be campaigning it. That's what Black Lives Matter should be using all of the funds that were raised to be raising awareness about, that they need legislation, pressure on local representatives to pass a bill that would sanction any police officer and make it a total crime to but like I say, we're dealing with a woke community, man. We're dealing with a woke community. And because we're dealing with a woke community, they can't take it fully through because they're being held back by so many odd beliefs, you see. And truthfully, when we're talking about consciousness, we're coming about becoming awakened. You're moving away from the world of beliefs and into the world of knowledge, into the world of reality, into the world of what is foundation solid, you see it. And we have concepts that have been thrown at us. A lot of them were even politically oriented, like we have the Aboriginal Black Americans. Yes, of course, we know that there have been Aboriginal Black Americans. Truthfully, migrations into the lands called America after Amerigo Vespucci go back even to 150,000 years ago. I mean, some of the most recent dispensations of migrations, 38,000, 50,000 years ago. Of course, we've been there. But when people now get this knowledge, they instantly want to use it like it gives them some premise to say that they're disconnected from Africa. You see the woke conflict in it, you see it. Because of the enslavement that brought dominant melanated people over to the lands called America in a different dispensation as from the 15th century, you could just say 1492. That stigma of, calling black people, the N-word, and that they were enslaved, and the colonialism, that whole inferiority complex that the church created to justify and create slavery as an institution, it makes now people who were dominant melanated people who are adopting this idea of Aboriginal Black Americans feel that they can disconnect from blackness. You see it by not adopting the reference Africa. And like I say, that's woke. We all suffered from imperialism. You see it. All of our native indigenous lands were invaded through the use of Christianity. So we're supposed to be unifying, if we're conscious, into forming an organization that can challenge the organization, even legally in court, seeking reparations and, so many demands. Like I said, I don't want to get into all of that. That would derail me from the discussion. But that shows that we would actually be conscious of seeking justice for what has happened to our people and our ancestors, not just being awoke to keep on talking about it. You see it. So that's the conflict that we're having between being woke and being conscious. You see it. When you're woke, you're now aware truly of what is going on in you and around you and the implications of the knowledge you have and your capacity to affect change in your community and the world. You see it. People who are woke are flooded with knowledge, drop knowledge, quickly reactional. They'll even say they know a lot, honestly. And they'll be very aggressive because they meet situations with other individuals where a lot of them are just coming into the knowledge of self, you see it. So they want to insist and kind of like aggressively assert what they feel is this knowledge that they feel that only they know. But my people, we're at a point now where it's about taking action. Really, it's about organizing. And if we're organizing toward this African nation, then we have to put this knowledge in context and recognize the meaning and its value. See it. If you have an organization which has perpetuated the enslavement of your people and you've awoken to realize the injustices in society are being perpetuated without resolve, then you need to question why they're not and identify the source and take it to task for justice. You see it. There's an individual, Steve Newcomb, indigenous Shawani, Lenape, Native Nation, the lands called Americas, who petitioned the Roman Catholic Church to UNESCO seeking a revocation of the Papal Bull's Dum Diversas Doctrine of Discovery, which actually, when you go into the details of the history, inhibit the ethnic nations of the lands called America from having access to their ancestral homes. So there's a cultural violation going on still on the face of this planet, not just against the African peoples who were violated by this Doctrine of Discovery, but also on the lands of the people who are now called Native Americans. And if you get into proper detail and context, you would get even to the land called South Americas. We would identify also indigenous nations who were devastated by these documents, and still today would acknowledge that these documents form some legal premise within the constitution and creation of their countries, even though they're on foreign soils, to give a logic or reality of why the crown of a foreign nation was able to come and put a cross on its shores and claim that the divine religious authority of the archetype Jesus of their God, their concept of a supreme creator, gives them authority moving from their land through manifest destiny to have authority to dominion over you. And it's written on a document by a man sitting in a chair who calls himself the Vicar of Christ, claiming he has the authority from this Jesus and this God. Now, if you accept to believe in this with these people, that's what gives them the authority to dominate you and use this concept of their belief that they are greater than you, as they explained through their mythology of Noah and everything else before they brought anthropologists. Was it Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, the man who came now and used this concept of Noah now to create an anthropological concept where he actually distributed now the sons of Noah to specific countries on the earth. And then this was taught now in academic schools in Europe, and those schools, when they colonized Africa, they sent now to their mission schools here and continued to perpetuate this education. They also did it in the North Americas and South Americas. They also tried to enforce it in the Asia, in the Chinas, where they wanted to infiltrate. You see it in the Malaysias, all of that. So I said, my people, this is not being woke. Are you conscious to what was done? If you're conscious to this reality and decide to be conscious and act, because if you want to be conscious and act, trace out Steve Newcomb. Steve Newcomb's got a petition floating on the internet since that time. Imagine, y'all signed petitions for Trayvon Martin and George Floyd, but that's the core written documents that a brother's trying to attack an activist. He took it up to the United Nations. You know what that means. For you to even find it and tick so that your number is registered as a like there, to give the weight and value to the algorithm so that could even become a viral concept. Where are you at? I want to bring us to a way of looking at reality that can help us start to become more pro-social in our activities and actually start to become more organized in our interactions as far as using the social media towards networking to actually achieve this realization of, not even a Pan-African ideal, but what just inevitably should be the evolution of an African nation. You need to come off all this sharing memes and just talking black this, Kemet this. Y'all even trying to make a new religion out of Kemetology. Culture will put you in chains even faster. Because I'm going to tell you, just because you put a black face on Jesus, it doesn't mean that you're going to escape from the fact that what you are actually indirectly admitting is that your ancestors formulated that biblical text and all those slave codes from Deuteronomy to Leviticus. And if you were enslaved under them later, then whose fault is that? You see it. I say, when you woke, you make mistakes like that. But when you come into our ministry, we teach you clearly all of that's mythology. So there is no dominant melanated culture that's going to come forward and stand and prove that they were Hebrews when we go into the Kemetic records and we don't find these people. We find Hyksos. That's the closest we get. So like I say, my people, if you want the knowledge, this is the ministry to come to get it. We transition you from being woke to conscious. Knowledge must be born. And if you did get the message, make sure you share this video. Go down there, hit like, of course, share it to people, and subscribe to the channel because we'll be dropping more content. Peace. Profile.
I ain't never been this ready, oh Lord. I done seen it on the telly and it all lies. Gotta get it, that be what they trying to tell us, but it's all lies. And we gon' die. So you really trying to tell me that a nigga gotta grind 9 to 5, only to get by, my lord. So it ain't right, my nigga, my lord. Somebody gotta die, nigga, and I'm ready. All I need is a machete. One of mine's